It's a funny one. I personally, I can only speak for myself there. There's not a huge amount of emotion attached to the game. I guess I was a little bit young for this Paul Gascoigne moment that everybody keeps talking about. I just wasn't really watching football that much at the time. It was very early into the 90s. I just wasn't quite there, and the hatred and the rivalry just hasn't quite set in. But then I guess I think back to the last time we played them, and it was a really squeaky game where Harry Kane scored very late on. And I just thought, actually, to be fair, this means an awful lot to both of these teams. I do think that England can probably take themselves away from the distraction of the emotion and just treat it like any other game, because they have the better players and the players who are just very used to playing on the biggest stages. I mean, I keep having to pinch myself looking through this England team because I keep realizing that we have a ridiculous amount of talent to call upon, probably the most talent I think I've ever seen in an England squad, and particularly in those attacking midfield positions. It's just Champions League finalist after Champions League finalist. It's absolutely remarkable. And when you think about it in those terms, and you remember that as fun and unpredictable as football can be sometimes, about 75% of the time, the better team with the better players wins the game. It's kind of difficult to get away from the idea that England will win the game. And I've already talked to you about my fantasy selections for the week using the Limitless chip. I've gone triple stack on England. I've taken Harry Kane. I've taken John Stones. I've taken Jordan Pickford. That tells you what I'm expecting at the end of the day. Whether it's my heart or my head, I've essentially backed a 1-0 for England. And look, watching Scotland against the Czech Republic, there's not really an awful lot to disprove that theory because they really weren't great. I think there's just a natural limit on how good they can be. The talent that they've got is naturally limited. The right side in particular, O'Donnell and Hendry. So I just had to check my notes because I'm not that familiar with the players, but watching them against the Czech Republic, oh my days. And to think what England can do on that left-hand side as well. Chilwell or Shaw, if Southgate wants to pick them, and then take your pick between Foden or Grealish or Sterling. That could get a little bit messy. I think all of England's players will be asking Southgate to play on the left wing against Scotland because Scotland's right side is really, really poor. So don't mean to be too disrespectful to Scotland, but it is really difficult to come up with any kind of reason as to why England won't win this game unless Scotland really turn up for this occasion. But of course, the first game of the group was their biggest moment since World Cup 98, and they fell so flat. So it's so hard to see them picking themselves back up off the mat to do it again, I guess. If Kieran Tierney is fit to play and Robertson can burst down the left and Tierney's forward passing and progressive passing can come into play, then look, England are going to have to be very wary down that side. But it's easy to see England creating a lot of chances consistently through this game. It really is, because of the quality gap and the personnel difference. So even if England don't necessarily take advantage of a good period like they didn't against Croatia, I feel like the chances of ultimately getting burned by that probably are a little bit lower.